We are following developments relating to Ukraine. US President Joe Biden has called Russia's actions in Ukraine as the beginning of a Russian invasion and announced new sanctions to punish Moscow. Meanwhile, US top diplomat Antony Blinken cancelled plans to meet Russia's foreign minister later this week. But yeah, the US is clearly responding to President Vladimir Putin after he ordered troops to two separatist regions of eastern Ukraine. And President Biden has also authorized more US troops to the region.
Yeah, that's right. So these were, I think, about 800 US soldiers who are stationed in Italy as of now, and they've been told to march into the Baltic area. So that's where it will be closer to the scene of action, should that be required. And of course, these troop deployments are on top of the financial sanctions that US has announced. So this was announcement overnight our time. And what it does do is place sanctions on a couple of key financial institutions in Russia. And then it also sanctions some Russian elite and their family members. These are people who are linked to perhaps Putin himself, in any case to powerful people within the Kremlin. And thirdly, there are restrictions on how Russia may access the Western financial markets, to raise money for itself. So this is what we've seen so far.
There are also sanctions brought on by Western nations, I hear.
Yeah, that's right. So those sanctions, I think the strongest that we saw so far is actually by Germany. And what Germany is looking to do is freeze that Nord Stream 2 pipeline, gas pipeline, not yet operational, but it is a key part of, the gas which Russia wants to sell to Europe and which generates a lot of money for Russia. So if you stop something like that, it definitely is a means of punishing Russia.
Now, the White House is also vowing stronger actions if President Putin escalates further. Does it look like the US will make good its threat to target Putin personally?
Well, I guess that's a bit hard to say. The question here is whether they have the willingness and the capacity. So I think Biden has already made that conditional on what Putin does next. So he said he's not ordering troops to march for the moment, not taken that decision. Although, of course, Western sources say that actually troops are already in there. And in fact, if you want to take that kind of view, they've been there for a long time, since actually the Crimean invasion took place shortly after that. So that's one part of it. The second part of it, we heard Biden and the US say that they're willing to go further, depending on how Putin responds. Now, the Putin response is not entirely clear at this moment. Apparently, Moscow said Putin had other things to do at the time, so he was not watching Biden's speech. And for the moment, though, there is no concrete decision from his end either. He said he has not decided for the moment whether to march his troops into the eastern part of Ukraine, the two areas which have declared themselves independent and which Russia has backed. So depending on how Putin reacts, you probably will see the West ratchet up further, and those kinds of things have been talked out before. So we were discussing the sanctions that the West has already put in place. That is going to be followed by even more severe kind of sanctions. So where all of Russia might be cut off with access to Western finance, to the SWIFT method of transacting in banks.
Looking back at the events in 2014 and comparing it to what's happening now, do you think there's a possibility of Russia launching a hybrid warfare, Bhagya?
That's a good possibility. And I think it's something that the Western game planners have looked into and have spoken about. So the possibility that Russia, for instance, might launch cyber attacks, which are intended to cripple certain Ukrainian infrastructure, for instance, or the possibility that they might launch misinformation or disinformation campaigns. I believe that part of hybrid warfare, they say, is perfected, invented in Russia. So it wouldn't be surprising, and I think it is an outcome that the West is looking into and has probably planned for. But no, for the moment, we aren't seeing that play out.
All right, we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you very much, Bhagya.